Hello, folks, and welcome to the Counting Sheep Podcast, episode 38. My name is Ruth, and I'll be your host. And welcome, everyone, to my podcast. My podcast is about mostly crocheting, knitting, spinning yarn, and also some tidbits here and there of life on a small sheep farm in Vermont, where I live with my husband, and a whole host of four-legged critters. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are new here, welcome. I hope you find something that resonates with you. I have been doing Vlogmas this month, just some little tidbit, short videos on this same channel about my life here. Yeah, so if that's something that interests you, I'd encourage you to go on over and enjoy just kind of these little moments before the holidays. So today I've got some crocheting, I've got some knitting, I got some acquisitions, not too much spinning. I did do some plying a week or so ago. But I think it's kind of the same thing I've shown here before, so I'd rather save that for another day. So yeah, let's get right into it. I usually start with crochet, and if you've been watching the vlog, you know I've been working on a day-by-day project. It's kind of working along with one of the advent calendars that I have. It's a yarn advent calendar by the Unique Sheep, and it's little 20-gram mini skeins, one per day, and it's actually in a beautiful gradient. And I had decided kind of last minute that I was going to use those colors in this project, the Granny Stripe Shawl by Crochet Object Knitting. This is Moanne, and she is the designer of the shawl. And just going to show you, if you've been watching the vlog or the Vlogmas, you know that I have been showing it along the way. I'm using a 3mm hook, and this is what it looks like right now. Just gonna show it out in its glory. So yeah, moving into a red spectrum now. Started at the yellows, moved into green, and then blue, and now, of course, the red, rosy red. And this is really, really nice. I like kind of trying it on every so now and then. It has some nice shoulder shaping to it. And yeah, so, and it's all the granny stitch, along with some shaping. So it is very easy, pretty easy, beginner project, and nice to use with the Advent gradients. So yeah, I'm very much enjoying that. I have a few more days to go, about 7 or 8 now. So really enjoying that. So yeah, Granny Stripe Shawl by Crochet Object Knitting. And yeah, so moving along on that pretty well. All right, and this next project in crochet, I haven't shown yet, I don't believe. I've been kind of working on it on the side, but when I saw this pattern come across my radar, I just couldn't resist. And this is called the Perfect Crochet Gloves. Here's a finished glove on the pattern itself. And here is one finished glove that I made. This pattern is by Be Hooked. I believe it's Brianna. Her name is Brianna. She has a channel here on YouTube, and she used the central single crochet for these gloves. And so if you're not familiar with that stitch, and I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with it, simply because you have to be very cognizant of keeping your stitches loose in order to work it. But this is the second glove I'm working on. So instead of inserting your hook like right here on top, on either through both loops or the back loop or the front loop, you actually insert your hook into the center of the stitch, so kind of the V that's formed when the stitch is completed. And if you make that too tight, it can be a real struggle to get your hook into that and then out the back in the right place as well. So you can see on the inside, it looks like a different stitch from the normal single crochet. And on the outside, it really does look like a stockinette stitch in knitting. But this is central single crochet. The other name for it is waistcoat stitch. Yeah, the cuff is done on a smaller hook. And while it looks kind of real skinny, it's got a lot of stretch to it. And what I love about her patterns, bee-hooked patterns, is that she's really got the shaping worked out, and she really encourages you to try it on as you go, which I love, because then you can shape it to your own hand. I'm working on the right hand now, and I've just kind of split for the thumb. And as you can see, this is fitting pretty well in here. I did tend to loosen up a lot on this second glove, so I hope it's not going to be too much of a problem. But it looks like it's fitting just fine on my hand. The yarn I'm using for this is John Arbin Textiles Yarnadelic, and it's a sport weight yarn. And this is 100% wool, I believe. Just want to make sure I'm not telling a fib here. Yeah, it's a Falkland Corriedale. And the colorway name is Sunflowers in My Garden. So that's the John Arbin. And yeah, it's nice yarn to work with, and I'm having a good time with it. Yeah, making these gloves. So yeah, highly recommend that pattern. She's worked out 3 different sizes, and she shows you how to measure your hand so that you know which size that you're doing. She said in her video, she has the video support too on YouTube. She said in her video that initially she wanted to make a whole range of sizes right down to, you know, baby sizes and toddler sizes. But she said the finger circumference actually got really fiddly when you get down to those smaller sizes. So she just kept it to the 3 adult sizes. And I am using a brand new hook to me. This is a Tulip. It's a 7.5 or a 4.5 millimeter hook. Trying it out. I usually have the Clover Amours that I use, but I'm liking these hooks too. So I like the ergonomic handle on this one, and I know a lot of crocheters and designers use the Tulip hook, so I thought I'd try them out myself. All right, so those are my perfect gloves, the perfect glove. And moving on, I just wanted to show you my progress. I mentioned this last time, the Roxy Sweater by Tinderbox, otherwise known as Courtney Clark. And this is the Roxy Sweater here. And this is done in a nice textured stitch called the Lemon Peel Stitch. And the stitch goes by other names as well. And I just got done with the first ball of yarn. And as you can see, I'll show you the front first. So that's the front. And I've done the back, and I just connected underneath by the armholes here. I've connected the armhole around. So yeah, And you can see the nice texture there in the stitch quality. Yeah, this is working up pretty quickly, all things considered, since I had been working on other projects. The yarn I'm using is Barocco Vintage Decay, and the fiber content on this is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8% nylon. And I am using a, let's see, this is a 3.75 millimeter hook, or F hook in US. And so as the label says, Vintage Decay, it is a number 3 light weight yarn on the yarn Craft Yarn Council rating scale of yarns. It is a machine washable wool or yarn, machine wash in cold and gentle cycle. It still recommends you lay it flat to dry. So yeah, so I'm thinking I'm liking this. Now, if this comes down too low, I decided to just trust the process. I'm going to see what she does with this neckline, whether she finishes it off somehow. I would think she does. This is kind of a really dramatic corner here, corners on the front. So, and if she does not do a finishing on the front, on the neckline, then I'm going to put my own on there, just to kind of bring it in a little bit. So yeah, that's the Roxy sweater, and that's coming along pretty well. And like I said, I just got done with the first ball of yarn. The yardage on this is 290 yards, and I'm starting on going round and round on the body. So yeah, this is a nice stitch to get in rhythm with. It's a, you know, single crochet followed by a double crochet, and then on the next row you put your double crochets into the single crochets and your single crochets into the double crochets. And so that's what makes this nice little texture as well on the lemon peel stitch. All right. So that's my progress on the Roxy sweater. So I'm going to move along into knitting now. So I have 2 sweaters I'm working on in knitting, and I'm going to show you my halftone first because I had the least amount of progress on that, but in terms of length or amount of knitting, but what I had to do took some time. So I managed to do the bind off on the bottom, and I used the recommended Italian sewn bind off. And depending on what resource that you look at, book versus web, I think I looked up the bind off first in a book, and it said to do 2 setup rows, or it could be the other way around. Anyway, one resource told me to use 2 setup rows, and then another resource, whether it was the web or some other written material, told me to do 4 setup rows. But the setup rows, what they are is kind of like a double knitting technique where you're working a stitch and then slipping the next one and alternating like that. So you work a stitch, slip a stitch, work a stitch, slip a stitch. And then on the next round, you're doing the opposite. So any of the stitches that you slipped on the previous row, you're working them. And so you can either do 2 rounds of that or 4 rounds. So I opted to do 4 rounds. This is a very stretchy bind off, as you will see. And then once you've done those setup rounds, you cut your yarn, and then you start doing a variation on the Kitchener stitch, essentially, with a darning needle and that long cut piece of yarn. Now what I did, they recommended anywhere from 3 to 5 times the length or the circumference of the edge to be bound off what you need to cut for the yarn. And I don't know about you, but J&S, it's a very sticky yarn. And when you're sewing it, I feel like you have to pull on it. And you are putting quite a bit of friction on the yarn as you're pulling it through these stitches how many times. So what I elected to do was I used half that amount, maybe even a third of that amount of yarn. And when I started to run out of yarn, I just did a kind of a, it's called a felted splice. Some people call it a spit splice. But what you do is just take the two ends, wet them, and then rub them together between your palms. And it splices the yarn together so that you can keep going. And I found it worked really well, especially with J&S. It's a woolly yarn. And so anyway, long story here, leading up to my showing you this wonderful bind off. Now, bear in mind, this wool is from the cone and it has not been washed yet at all. So it's going to look a little wonky. I think once everything is blocked, all these stitches are going to fall into place. But check out this stretchy bind off here. When you are sewing, you have to be mindful doing a sewn bind off to not pull on the yarn too much. And one of the videos I watched did warn about that, you know, not to pull, so that it kind of defeats the purpose of a stretchy bind off if you pull on the yarn and you'll lose that stretch. So, but yeah, so let me show you the kind of the effect here. So that's the full pullover here. Sorry about the wrinkles. Like I said, it really needs a good blocking. But yeah, it's a kind of a sweatshirt style sweater, and I'm really happy with that sewn bind off, so that it's not pulling in. It's really gonna kind of work with the garment as you wear it. So yeah, this is a neat pattern. And so now I have to do the sleeves. You can see the sleeves, sleeve openings are pretty huge. So this is kind of a cozy, you know, sweatshirt style, you know, sit around the house on the weekend type sweater. So, so I'm looking forward to getting these stitches on a set of circular needles. I'll probably go with a 16-inch circular initially, and then see how the decreases are working. But yeah, on the sleeve, you're going to start doing some color work shortly, again, to match this color work in the body. So yeah, that's the halftone sweater, halftone pullover. Let me just get you the particulars on this. I've said it a million times. This is Indigo Knits, and her name is Kim, and that's what hers looks like. So you can see, headed for some more color work on the sleeves shortly after I pick them up on smaller needles. And boy, one of these J&S cones goes a long way. I'm actually thinking about winding some off of the gray, winding some of it off and using it for a smaller project, just kind of washing it up and then using it on something smaller. So yeah. So I'm happy with the progress I made on that, even though, you know, like, it really is worth taking the time to do a nice bind off on your sweater. I can't tell you how many pullovers I have that, you know, that bottom ribbing, if it's done top down, and this is one of them. This is a very old sweater of mine. It's a Lopi pattern, but the yarn is Manos del Uruguay yarn, and it's singles, and it's a beautiful sweater. I love it. But the bottom is you know, the ribbing, I didn't know any better at the time about a sewn bind off. So I did a regular bind off on the ribbing, and it is very snug. So not unwearable, but it is snug, and you can tell the difference between this bind off and the one I just showed. So, all right, moving on. I wanted to show you my other work. My husband and I went away over the weekend. Those of you who are following the vlog know we went to Quebec City to the Christmas markets that they have there, and had quite a magical time. For us, it's about a 4 to 4.5 hour drive, and so I had quite some time for card knitting. And so I brought along my Nordic Nights. This is a sweater by Jen Steingass, and Jen Steingass has a lot of these circular yoke patterns. Every time she comes out with a new one, I'm just like, it's great. I don't have the desire to knit all of them, but she tends to really kind of, she has that natural vibe about her, you know, takes a lot from nature and puts them into designing her sweaters. The yarns I'm using for this are one is hand spun and the other is from Maine Yarn and Fiber Supply. So this is the main color. This colorway is called Dutch Mood, and yeah, it's in the Sacco blend, which is a 4-ply fingering weight, 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So it's kind of like this mustardy color. It's beautiful. And then, of course, this is my hand spun that I made from 2 different hanks from Dirty Girl Fiber. And she hails from Vermont. She's in southern Vermont. This is a 2-ply Rambouillet, but like I said, 2 different hanks. So one of the hanks had more of like a brown color in, so you can kind of see that on the outside. And then the other colorway was more green and yellow. So, but I think they combined up pretty well. And I did manage to get quite a few rows. I think about 20 rows done since the last time I showed you. So just want to show you my progress here. I don't know if the light is going to... We're losing light here, but I've got my ring light on above. So hopefully if I don't dump it over, I'll show you how this looks here. Kind of hard when it's still on the needles, you know, to really show the color work. So, and of course, all color work needs good blocking, but you kind of get the idea of what it looks like, especially when I bring it back here. You can see kind of what's going on here. Totally a different kind of effect than the sweater that Jen is modeling in her pattern. So this is a very light contrast, and hers is a very stark contrast. But since I had this yarn and I really wanted to use it in a colorwork project, I really didn't want to go darker than this. I just felt like I was going to lose the trees. So yeah, maybe when I get it all done finally, I'll wear it out and in some good daylight and show you with some really adequate lighting, not house lighting with artificial lighting. So yeah, there you go. I really am enjoying working on this pattern. You really can get into a rhythm with her designs. So I'm happy with that. Wanted to show you that I was making progress on that. And yeah, it's good card knitting, especially for a good chunk of time. You know, you can get a good slice of of the pullover done. All right, so that was Nordic Nights halftone sweater. Like I alluded to, I'm going to move into kind of my shenanigan portion here, since I don't have any spinning to show you this time around. My husband and I went to Quebec City, Quebec over the weekend, and I managed to find a vendor at the Christmas market that had hand-dyed skeins. So I just wanted to share this with you. I did show it on the vlog, but I don't think the lighting was all that good. So this vendor, boy, she had all sorts of colors there and whatnot. So you can go and check it out. It's a couple of days back. This is an 80% superwash merino and a 20% nylon. These were her sock sets. And this is kind of like an eggplant color on kind of a grayish white background. Yeah, really interested to see how this is going to work up. I'm going to do socks, of course, since she gives you this small skein for cuffs, heels, and toes, if that's your jam. But yeah, it was nice to see a yarn vendor at this Christmas market. The Christmas market has all sorts of things for sale, as you can imagine. A lot of tastings, there's a lot of food, and also some nice hot drinks to warm you up. So it was quite cold there over the weekend, so that was appreciated, the warm drinks. So in other news, if you are indeed following me on the vlog, I have 2 advent calendars, the one which I mentioned before, the unique sheep with the yarn advent. The other advent that I have is called the Hygge box, which Hygge is a Danish term, I believe, and it roughly translates to like coziness and all those things that make you feel warm, cozy, you know, candles, warm drinks, that sort of thing. This is a box that was put together by Longmont Fiber Shop out in Colorado. And they had some choices. You could go with the neck and hands crochet box, and then the other 2 choices were crochet shawl or knit shawl, and I went with the neck and hands box. So you might have seen, like, the first probably couple days I opened up and got this pattern, which is a cowl. It's called the Affinity Cowl, and it's designed by Crochet Creations by Wendy. And then shortly thereafter, I opened this up, and this is kind of a long repeat yarn. And this is by Alexandra, The Art of Yarn. And it's the yarn is made in Peru, actually. And this one's called The Dark Side of the Moon, DK, Midnight Psychedelic, 245 yards, and it's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. So I just love the little pop of color on the end. I can't wait to use this to see how this is going to work into this cowl. And then just recently I opened up this pattern for the Stella fingerless gloves. Can't have too many hand-warming woolly items in the wintertime. And this is by Kick and Crochet. And then I opened up this skein of yarn, which is also from the same dyer, Alexandra, the Art of Yarn. Same fiber content, but this one's called Moonbeam Psychedelic. So same idea, except this is, of course, a lighter base. Yeah, So thought I'd share those with you a little close up in better lighting, because sometimes my vlogs don't have the perfect lighting. So yeah, this is for the cowl and for the gloves. I guess you could probably interchange them depending on your mood. You can do gloves with this one and a cowl with this one. I'll have to figure that out when I get to it. But yeah, so fun stuff. Yeah, we've got that particular Advent goes through the end of this month, through December, which is kind of nice. The yarn Advent will stop on Christmas Eve. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. Hope you're enjoying it as well. I should be able to get another podcast in before the end of the year. But if you aren't able to join me for that, I want to wish you happy holidays and all the best in the new year for you. And until I see you again, keep crafting and take care of yourself, and I will see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.